All right, so right now we have our key frames. What we need to do is our key in betweens, okay? So the idea here is that it's generally in the middle, but it does not have to be. It's usually a good starting spot. Is that you try to put the stuff that's halfway between the starting position and the ending position. So for instance, right, this is our one position, right, at 15. But if we go about halfway, you can see there's a spot where basically her leg comes forward and it needs to be up. Right now, if we were to look at our video or our animation, you'll see he just slides the foot forward, right? He's supposed to pick it up. So, like I said, it's generally somewhere around in the middle, but it doesn't have to be. It kind of depends on the animation. In fact, actually, you can get some nice looking stuff if you don't put it directly in the middle. So I'm going to look and see where it makes the most sense. I'm going to look for where her foot is the highest, I think is probably going to make the most sense. So let's say right at 8, which is like literally in the middle. Okay, so we're going to say at 8, and I'm just going to kind of follow this. What I'm not going to do, though, is key every single aspect. I'm just going to key what I need to. Okay, so if this wasn't on before, go ahead and turn this on by just checking that on. And what that'll do is that'll only key the things that we are currently doing. All right. So the main thing I need to do on this one was the leg here, right? So if we look, you can see her leg is actually kind of up a little bit. Hers doesn't do this, but I'm just going to point mine down a little bit because generally people do that. Okay, so that will be the one. And when I look at 8, I can see that his arms are about halfway, but hers are not actually. They're a little bit more delayed. So I'm actually going to go ahead and take this and move that down just a little, like real subtle differences. And then we're going to go ahead and actually move her arms down. And then these are actually not bent up quite so much yet. So I'm going to do that to both of these. Okay. Down and unbend you a little bit. And let's go ahead and I'll put that so that way it doesn't get in the way of the leg here. So let's see. Okay. So let's see. Boom. And then I'm just kind of looking for anything that needs to be done kind of at the halfway mark here. So I'm just trying to make it as best as I can. Okay. So we'll say that's fine. Now let's look for other halfway ones. So let's see. Okay. So she lands here. And then, okay, so then there's this one, right? But you can see, again, she puts her foot up. So I'm going to say her foot is probably maxed. Let's say 29 is what we'll do, okay? So I'm going to go to 29. And I am going to lift her foot up there because it needs to come up. Or his foot up in this case. She's also got it not quite so far yet. So like this. And then there's also, I'm going to put a little bit of a ball roll just to kind of, not that much. Let's do like 10. Let's type in 10. Just to give a little bit of subtlety because she would be pushing off. Okay. It looks like her arm is actually a little bit early this time. So I'm actually going to pull this up a little bit. And pull this up and back a little bit and actually bend this one. Oops, make sure I only grab the one axis. Forward a little bit, and this was actually rotated a little bit this way. And that's actually about right. Let's go ahead and just start turning this head down a little bit more. Like so. Okay, so we'll call that good. And I'm just going to go through, like I said, and look at the halfway motion. So, she goes in, and then I think I only got as far as that, right? Because then it's just holding this. Okay. So, it's going to be subtle, but you'll see that it's a little bit better now. Okay. All right. Okay, so some other things we can do is this. What we have now are what we call just static holds, right? They're non-moving hold. We want to do a moving hold. And what that means basically is that you, if you look, right, so she holds this pose, but she's not still. She's moving a little bit, very subtly, right? But there's a little bit of motion. So most of the time, some animation you can get away with that. Like stop motion, it's almost required that when you have holds that they don't move. If they move a little bit, it starts to look like they're drunk. I've actually tried to experiment with this before. Same thing with 2D animation. You'll notice that if you look at like full animation, like old school Disney animation, they do moving holds when they're doing holds. But most like Saturday morning cartoons, when they're not moving, they're just straight up not moving. They just have a mouth move or something, or it's very static. We can't get away with that in 3D. It just looks weird. So we have to basically fix that. And there's a couple of cheats that we can actually do to make this work a little bit better. So I want her to move, but you'll notice that what she's doing with her hold here, right? We don't even really have a hold. But if you look at her hold here, right, she doesn't really get off until probably frame 5, I would say it actually starts. So this is kind of not doing this. The other thing you're going to notice too is that the motion's actually, oddly enough, like watch this. See how fast it looks like she's moving? She's not moving any faster. We have the exact same frames. But see how slow mine looks? And the reason for that is because we don't have holds that are like kind of stalling the motion and then letting the motion happen and then kind of doing follow through. You'll see what I'm talking about in a second. So what I want to do is I want to kind of hold this, but obviously I don't want it to be exactly the same thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to frame 2. See how frame 2 is a little bit different? And I'm going to middle mouse button, click and drag that to 5 and hit S. And actually I only did that on the neck, so that was a bad idea. Let's click on the all button up here. And I'm going to do the same thing again. Actually, I'm going to undo that real quick. Sorry. Actually, I'll just right click and delete. That'll be the easiest way. Okay, I'm going to delete that. Okay, I'm going to click on the all button first. I'm going to go to frame 2. I'm going to middle mouse button, click and drag to 5. Let's do 4. What's supposed to be 4 anyway. So now you'll see there's a little bit of a slight motion. Okay. And then it goes into the sweeping motion. And then again, we have the same thing here, where basically she's holding still, but she's not, right? So if we look at the actual thing here, when she does her step, that was a little bit of a stall there, right? There's a little bit of a stutter, and then it goes. So we kind of want to just do the same thing here. So what I'm going to do is this. Seems like a weird thing. I'm going to go to 25. I'm going to middle mouse button, click and drag that. Let's put that at, let's say, 18. And then hit S. So now it kind of stalls, goes back, and then it goes into it again. So if we hit play, now it's going to need a little bit more work than that, but by copying basically what was on frame 25 and putting it in between my 2 static ones, it gives them a little bit of motion and a little bit of the stutter, okay? And we're going to do the same thing up here. So I'm going to take frame 40 here. I'm going to middle mouse button, click, and let's drag that to, let's say, 46 and hit S. So now what you're going to see, now it's not the greatest, but now there's a little bit of motion. So there's a real kind of obvious rocking and things like that, and that will need to be fixed as well. But we're giving a little bit more life, okay? Get a lot of, sorry about that. Let me just put this on to, okay, it's not going to. Okay, so anyway, we just need to fix that up a little bit. So there's some other things. Crime and Nitley. Can I do that? There you go. All right. So we need to, we need to add a little bit more life to this, okay? So some things we can do to kind of help is do what we call like overlapping action or follow through action. And so the idea here is that what we have is that I have things not all happen at the same time. If you remember the way that we animate is I did all this pose, all this pose, all this pose, and then all this pose, right? So you get a very flat animation. In actuality, as much as I was saying, oh, we move pose to pose to pose, the actions do not happen. They do not reach all the same stopping points. Usually one thing will happen, we'll reach it first, and then the next part of the body will happen, right? So like my legs will probably reach this position at 15, and then the arms will get there. Like they'll be a little bit delayed. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to grab all of my arm keys. I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to hit Q, so it's a little bit easier. And this one, I'm holding shift, this one, and this one. And then I'm going to hold shift still, and this one, this one, this one, and this one. So I grab all my arm keys, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delay them a little bit. So basically, they don't happen at the same time as the legs, okay? So you can see the keys are down here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold shift, click, and drag. So I get this whole area. Basically, this is the whole hold, right? So this was the first position, and this is the hold position, and then I put that one in the middle to try and make it move a little. And I'm just going to delay it 2 frames. 1, 2. Okay? What's going to happen is the legs are going to end, but you can see the arms are still reaching it. And then the leg again is going to start, and then the arm. But actually, I'm going to delay these as well. I'm going to go to 29. I'm going to hold shift, click, and drag. And I'm going to delay these also 2 frames. Because generally speaking, it's the leg that's leading the motion, right? That leg's coming forward, and the end, and it's following that motion up and through the arms. And that's what gives it its power, is that the leg is driving that force. I don't know anything about karate, but I'm assuming that's the case. And it gives a little bit of a delay between the one and the other, okay? Now, to add an even more little bit to this, it's actually not a bad idea to actually not have these the same either. So what I'm going to do is grab just this arm, because this arm again, oops, come on, this, and this is going to be a little delayed from the other one. So I'm just going to grab this whole bit here, and I'm just going to move it over 1 frame. So that way, this arm happens 1 frame after that one. It'll be 1 frame behind the other one, and that will make it a little bit better. All right. Now, after that, those are just some cheats you could do. I just need to fix some things. So, like, right here, I'm thinking when he gets to here, maybe just have him, like, lean a little bit, because you would try to get that momentum going, right? So just a little bit. It's real subtle. And then also, I'm going to have these arms go back a little bit, because he would have to counterbalance. Oops, that's a lot. That's a lot more than I wanted. Say like that. Okay. And then that's fine. Now I'm getting this weird little bounce here that I'm not a huge fan of. I don't really super like this little bounce. It's a little too much. So I want to replace this 21, which is something a little more subtle. So I'm literally going to go just to, like, let's say 19. I'm going to middle mouse button click and just drag over 21. I only have this one selected, and hit S, and that will override that. Let's see. Let's grab this guy too. Some other things I want to do is that normally we go heel toe, right? So see how, like, the foot's going down, it's leading with the toe. It's a little bit weird. So I'm actually going to, on 15, have this up a little bit. So he goes like this. And then we'll go 1, 2. Actually, it's already there, so we don't even need to do that. I was going to put a foot down, but there's already a foot down here. From here, really what you would do, honestly, is just kind of go through and just make the whole thing look better. There's also a little bit of a weird floatiness right there that I'm not a huge fan of. Let me stop that. So if you look, he goes, puts his foot down, but then see how it's moving? I'm actually going to copy 24 to 18. And that way he puts his foot down, but he doesn't. I just held middle mouse button, clicked and dragged, and then hit S. I just had the foot controller selected. That way it doesn't go up and down. It was a little bit weird. That's a little better. I also don't like how this foot's doing that. So see how it's kind of going back and forth? That's a little weird. I'm just going to go to 46 here, and I'm just going to delete that. That way the foot stays still, even if he rocks a little bit. Although I'm not a huge fan of the rocking. It's a little too obvious. So I'd go through and, like, fix some of the little sways and things that I did. But that would be time consuming to show and what have you. But hopefully you get kind of an idea. And you could do other things too. So, like, you know, she's doing this little swipe thing here. So I probably would go right here. I feel like this actually needs to go down a little. Maybe, like, here. I'm just going to embellish this a little bit by, like, helping move this way. So I might put some in-betweens in between my other ones. And then we'll just go like that. So you just put more keys and more keys and more keys. If you ever watch, like, Pixar or Disney or DreamWorks animation, you will literally see that they have a key on every single frame. That the more the computer does, the worse it's going to look. But the idea here is to kind of break it down. Do Bigger things first, then smaller things, and then smaller and smaller and smaller. Okay. This could definitely use a lot more work, but I just want to get the idea. So you just keep breaking it down. Save it as you're going. I haven't saved it a single time yet. Save it as you're going, and then you can hopefully have what you need. And that way, if you screw up, you can kind of go back. All right. But this process will work for pretty much most animation. It's just you just break it down. So if you want to do a much longer thing, like do something really cool, then like jumping through a background or something, like a parkour thing, that would be really fun. Do that. If you want to just do a fight sequence, you could do that. But do something, interesting. All right. Well, good luck.